The Dodgers just went nuclear at Coors. Ohtani went deep twice. Muncy crushed one to the moon. And LA scored 11. The Bats are back.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Harry Ruiz, that's Travis Rodgers, and it's time for Locked On Dodgers. On today's show, after the Lakers sale, another major piece of Mark Walters' sports portfolio is now reportedly on the market. So what does that mean, if anything, for the Dodgers? Edwin Díaz continues to struggle, and the Dodgers are trying to figure out how to get their closer back to the pitcher they thought they were getting. But first, Travis, the Dodgers needed a bounce back after losing the series to Milwaukee, and they got a win in Colorado, with the offense finally putting together its biggest scoring night in more than a month.
Yeah, they finally got what the doctor ordered, and that is the Colorado Rockies in Denver, and they took advantage of it for sure. We'll talk about all of this on today's episode of Locked On Dodgers, which is brought to you by Kalshi. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use the code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade $10.
And look, if there was ever a place for the Dodgers offense to break out after a miserable weekend at Chavez Ravine, it's Coors Field, and the Dodgers absolutely took advantage of that opportunity. Los Angeles scored 11 runs on Monday night's win over Colorado. That's more than they scored against the Milwaukee Brewers over a 4-game span on this past weekend in Los Angeles. And Travis, that's exactly the kind of offensive performance this team needed after some frustrating stretches at the plate. You had Shohei Ohtani going yard in back-to-back at-bats. You had Max Muncy hitting a home run that I have a feeling it still hasn't hit land after going off of his bat last night. And Freddie Freeman, he stopped an 18-game streak without hitting an extra base hit with back-to-back doubles as well. So this wasn't just a couple of runs here and there. The lineup just kept coming, with the exception of one guy. Kyle Tucker went 0 for 5.
Yeah, Tucker, we can get into that again. I know we talked about him a little bit yesterday. This is why you got to be an everydayer with Harry and myself. Look, the Rockies are not a great team. Coors Field leads itself to all sorts of, high-level offensive outputs and 460-foot home runs like Muncy hit along the way. But quite frankly, Harry, who cares, man? It's exactly what the doctor ordered. They did what you're supposed to do against a team that's not a particularly strong team in a ballpark that's very offensive, and they delivered. And yeah, sure, Muncy hit one 9 miles. It was awesome to watch. Yeah, sure, Ohtani hit 2 9 miles. That was awesome to watch. Freddie got on the board with a couple extra base hits, like you mentioned. He had 3 hits. Ohtani had 4. Andy Pajes had a big day at the plate too. This is all really good news, because much more so just than the fact that they got a bunch of hits, which is great. Don't get me wrong. I thought the at-bats were much better. I thought that in particular, in the third inning, when they were able to stack a bunch of at-bats together, and I think they had 4 hits in a row at one point. And yeah, one of them left the ballpark with Muncy, but this was a very impressive sort of evening where they just were grinding it. And I get it that the Rockies are not going to be the sort of opponent that you're going to see in the postseason, but they needed one of those. Okay, there it is. Now let's get back going. So hopefully they're able to take care of what they need to take care of in Colorado, win today, win tomorrow, win the series, whatever it is, come back against the Pirates, who again are not a great team, better than Colorado, but not a great team, and finally start to look like their look. I thought that, again, with the exception of Kyle Tucker in right field, I thought that they played better defensively. I thought that they ran the bases better. I thought they made better decisions in the batter's box. So as great as the 11 runs were, and they were, as great as the home runs were, and they were, it was the way they went about approaching it, I thought, that was the most encouraging part of the night last night, because they looked, for the first time in a while, they looked like the Dodgers.
No doubt about it. And just to use a basketball analogy, you just got to see the ball go through the net and be like, okay, man, I got it. And that's what the Dodgers did. It had been since July 2nd that the Dodgers hadn't scored at least 10 runs in a game. So this wasn't just a couple of runs here and there, Travis. The lineup kept on coming. You had quality at bats. And that's something that Dave Roberts spoke about post game, about the approach that the players had up at the plate, how Max Muncy extended that at bat where he hit the 3 3-run home run. He just kept it coming, kept it extending it, and boom, eventually he ended up getting the result that he wanted, because if you make that pitcher keep on throwing, eventually you have a better opportunity to get a better pitch to go and get either on base with a walk or get on base with a hit, or even better, get 3 runs across the board with Max Muncy getting a home run. Andy Pages, he delivered a very good night as well. He ends the game with a 3-hit game, same case as Freddie Freeman. Shohei Ohtani, 4-hit game in this one. Max Muncy, multi-hit game. The only 2 guys that didn't get hits in this game as part of the starting lineup, we already mentioned Kyle Tucker. He went 0 for 5 on this one. Hunter Fiducia, he went 0 for 4 with a walk. But at the end of the day, just being able to get the result, get the win, it's against a very bad Colorado Rockies team who's has the worst record in the National League, and playing in Coors Field, the altitude, we all know the benefits that it has for a team with great bats. But like we said, Travis, it doesn't matter if it happened at Dodger Stadium, at Coors Field, or in Mars. You just needed a good game for this Dodgers team. And I mean, we can also say the same thing on the other side, Travis. Blake Snell, despite pitching at Coors Field, he had a very good performance for a second consecutive start since coming back from the injured list. 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, 3 walks, 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts in this game. He got into a pickle in trouble right there in that 3rd inning, but he was able to get out of it with just 1 run coming across the board when the Dodgers had a 5-0 lead.
Yeah, I thought he was good. Just kind of going back to the bats for a second before we talk about Snell. I thought that the approach that they had against Sagano was really important because, look, that guy's not Jacob Mizorowski. He's not, Aaron Sale or whoever it is you might run into in the playoffs. But the approach is still going to be the same. The idea is still going to be the same. Make the starting pitcher throw a bunch of pitches, make him have to work hard to collect those 15 or 18 outs that they're going to get through 5 or 6 innings and get into the bullpen. I know some bullpens are better than others, but they're out in the bullpen for a reason. They get the starter out of the game, get the bullpen in, get that turn coming around, right? And I think Dodger fans are starting to understand this from the other side, which is a lot less fun, which is when guys start coming out of the bullpen, you're never quite sure what you're going to get. Eventually, you're going to get to that guy that's having a bad night, and that's when you can break the game open. So even though that the quality of the opponent wasn't where it needs to be, I thought the approach was. I thought Snell, going back to him for a second, was fantastic. The 2 games that we've seen him since he's come back from his injury have been really, really impressive. He kind of lost his mojo, like you mentioned there in the 3rd inning. He walked the bases loaded right after the Dodgers gave him that big lead. For a player of Snell's caliber, for a player of his experience, that was kind of peculiar because, your team gives you a big lead. The very last thing you want to do is help the other guy get back into it without having to do anything. And they just had to stand there and watch 12 balls go by. So that was pretty unusual. But because he's Blake Snell, because the Colorado Rockies are the Colorado Rockies, he was able to get out of it with pretty minimal damage. Bases loaded, nobody out, and you walked them on. Only 1 comes in. That's a pretty good wiggle off the hook right there. But just a really, really solid day for him. I think you're going to start to see this team look more like it is supposed to look, mainly because you're going to start to see those starting pitchers just one after the next. I know Lauer's going today, but I think the clock's probably ticking relatively loudly on when he's no longer going to be a part of this because Tyler Glasnow is headed back. Shohei Ohtani is supposed to throw a bullpen today. So you're going to talk Yamamoto, Skubal, Snell, Ohtani, Glasnow, and we're not even talking about Sasaki. Like you really are able to throw just one high level guy after the next, and that's going to fix a lot of the problems that they've had.
So Travis, we always say it. You can't go too high, you can't go too low after one game. We always say 1 out of 162, especially after bad losses. But after a win like this, it's encouraging to see both the bats and pitching mostly perform good for this Dodgers team. Do you feel that it's something that encourages you, or is it something that they can build off of, or is it simply 1 out of 162 for this Dodgers team heading into their game with Eric Lauer on the mound today, Tuesday?
Can I pick all of the above? Can I do the D, all of the above? Because it feels that's right. What it was. It is just 1 out of 162, but it was a good one out of the 1 out of 162. It was exactly what the doctor ordered. They needed exactly what they were able to do. it does feel good to win a game. I like what you said earlier. Sometimes you just need to see the ball go through the net. You just need to see, like in golf, I just need to see the ball go in the hole. Even if it's a putt that's this long, I just need to see it go in to know that there's an actual hole in the ground. Oh, okay, I can do this. And everybody relaxes, starts to feel pretty better. I don't think anybody that is a regular Dodger watcher, that's a regular listener or watcher of our podcast, Harry, genuinely was watching this team over the last month and said, uh-oh, this team's in big trouble. But it still stinks to watch them play lousy for that long. And when finally kind of see them come out of that low spot. Now, look, they got to go do it again today. They got to go do it again tomorrow. They got to do it against the Pirates. So it just like playing bad can kind of stack on itself. Playing good can as well. So I think it's all the above. It's not the end of a terrible run. It could just, they swept the Kansas City Royals. That's a bad team too. And they went right back to the way they were before. So let's see what happens next, but certainly a step in the right direction.
There can be a frustrating week or two or even a month, but as a Dodger fan over the last decade, you just know it's like, hey, it's all about October. You just need that month to be the one where the team gets you over the finish line. They've been able to do so 3 times over the last decade. We can, I feel, expect them to do it one more time. And speaking about lousy play, not to pile on, but damn, Kyle Tucker, he was 0 for 5. And it's like, well, at least he hasn't dropped one at right field tonight. And boom, he does it late in the game, Travis. It feels like, I don't want to keep piling on him, but it's like something's wrong right now. And even Eric Karros mentioned it on the broadcast yesterday. Maybe he needs a reset. Is the IL something that you feel would be positive for Kyle Tucker at this moment?
I think not playing baseball for Kyle Tucker would be positive at this moment. I think he needs, I thought Carol said it pretty well. And I think it's interesting, Harry, you work for a team, I work for a team, and there's just an understanding every once in a while where everybody that's even on these teams realizes we can't pretend what's happening isn't happening anymore, that you need to address the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is Kyle Tucker has been dreadful. They've given him plenty of time to work his way out. They've given him plenty of opportunities, different parts in the lineup, home, away, and it's just not happening. I think he's 0 for his last 25 or 26. He dropped a routine ball in the outfield that was not just a drop, Harry. The way that he approached it, he was down on his knee. It was just a terrible, terrible play for a guy that has won a Gold Glove in his past. We saw the play in right field on Sunday afternoon, a ball that he absolutely should have caught that he didn't. He needs a reset. I don't know if that is an injury where he needs to go play somewhere else and just like you said a second ago, see the ball go through the net, feel the ball hit the barrel of the bat. Remember that he is a high quality player, but I really do think you're getting in a weird spot with both him and Diaz. And I know we're going to talk about Diaz coming up in there, where you have to really consider whether or not they're even going to make the team in October. And that sounds crazy considering the amount of money that they gave those guys. But when you go into the playoffs, you're going to play with your best 26 guys. And right now, neither one of those guys are 2 of your 26 best guys. They're going to have to make a very different decision. And Tucker is completely and totally lost.
Yeah, I asked on social media, are we at the point now where we got to do the Conforto treatment where you bench him to get Kike Hernandez on the field? I mean, when October rolls around, if the performances continue the same way, I feel that that's a no-doubter. But now in August, that's a conversation. And that's crazy to say, just thinking about January 15th when the Dodgers signed him and all the hype around the contract signing of $60 million a year contract. Now we're at this point. That's somewhere we never thought we'd be at right now. So to close segment 1, let's ask you, our viewer, our listener, the Dodgers, they scored 11 runs. Ohtani hit 2 homers and Snell delivered another strong start. What impressed you the most about this win? Drop your take in the comments, hit us up on social, or call the Locked On Dodgers listener line, 2793-LOCKED. We want to hear where you stand. Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, we're talking about Edwin Díaz. Can the Dodgers actually get him back on track before October?
A big thank you to our friends at Amazon for this limited break, this back-to-school season, and it is here. I mean, the streets are filling up again. Spend less on your kids with Amazon. We all know how crazy the back-to-school shopping experience can be. It starts with just a few things on the list, then suddenly You're shopping for, well, everything: supplies, clothes, lunch gear, tech, and about 10 other things that you never saw coming. And it adds up fast. Let's talk about that tech, right? When the school says your child needs a calculator, headphones, tablet for class, and somehow you're buying another one before the semester is halfway over. Since when do you need this many things just to get through the third grade? And of course, my personal favorite, when it's 9 p.m., the night before school starts, and somebody suddenly remembers they need folders, notebooks, markers, and apparently 12 other things that nobody mentioned until that very second. Nothing gets the heart rate up quite like emergency school shopping. So I'm convinced that Prime's Deliver Tomorrow feature before 7 a.m. was created exclusively for parents in this particular moment. So remember, with Amazon's low back-to-school prices, just spend less on your kids, because every dollar you don't spend on them is a dollar you haven't spent on them. Shop back to school at Amazon and spend less on your kids.
Are you new here? Welcome. Everydayers, you already know you're the heartbeat of our show. It's easy to help us out. Subscribe and like our content on YouTube. Leave a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify, and hit up the Locked On Dodgers listener line, 279-3-LOCKED. That's 279-356-2533. We already have a couple of voicemails lined up that we will use later this week. The Diaz problem is very, very real. Let's be clear about something. Edwin Díaz is not struggling because he suddenly forgot how to pitch, Travis. The Dodgers signed him because they believed he could be the dominant closer that they know he is, but we've seen a completely different version of Díaz right now, where the fastball's off, the slider's off, the velo's off, the swing and miss, the intimidation factor. Man, you look at over his last 7 appearances, he has allowed 10 runs, and his ERA as a Dodger has climbed to 11.85. Last night, he went in with a 9-run lead, and it got shaky fast. 1 inning pitched, 4 hits, 1 hit batter, 3 earned runs. It was like, man, he's literally trying to do something that we've never seen before, give up a 9-run lead in this game.
Yeah, so I was texting with some friends as we were watching the game last night, and I'll ask you the same question I asked them. What was more embarrassing for Edwin Díaz last night? Being asked to pitch in an 11-2 game, which is not where you put your high dollar closer. I mean, that's Miguel Rojas territory. That's Kike Hernandez territory. And you're asking your elite level closer to come in and pitch because that's about the cushion of lead that you need to feel halfway decent about him going out there. So is it that, or is it him going out there and getting tagged by a bad Rockies team, including the bottom of a bad Rockies team's order, and his inability to get any sort of effective outing going at all? It was ugly on top of ugly on top of ugly. He is another one. And I think a lot like Tucker, he's lost his confidence completely. And it sounds so weird because they make the major leagues. They're awarded these big contracts. They've made all-star games. You know, in Kyle Tucker's case, he's been on a World Series champion team before. Like, these guys have played in big, important moments, but they just look busted here in LA. They just have no sense of who they used to be. And I don't know if it's the pressure of joining an organization like the Dodgers, where the expectation is super sky high and wanting to contribute, and you start to press and you start to push yourself, and it just goes bad, and then it starts to snowball from there. But both of those guys are absolutely lost. And the same thing that I asked you about Diaz, Harry, or about Tucker, I should say, would ask about Diaz. Like, you have to really start wondering if he's even going to make the team come October, because explain to me the situation where you can put him in a game and feel good about the potential outcome. And there just isn't one. You mentioned Conforto a year ago with Tucker. I think right now you're in Tanner Scott territory with Edwin Díaz, where it's just, there's no good place to use this guy. So you're just not going to, which means let's put a different player on the roster come the postseason.
Yeah, and last season with Tanner Scott, it ended up being an injury, which ended up leaving him off of a postseason roster, I believe, in the NLDS, and then you didn't see him again. And maybe that's what you need with these two guys, and it sucks because they're two of the high. I mean, Kyle Tucker, when it comes to average earnings per season, he's up there with Juan Soto's, with Shohei Ohtani, Edwin Díaz. He's the highest paid reliever in baseball, and it would suck leaving him off the roster when it comes to postseason because you know that they are good players. But this season, they've been all but good, confident players up out on the field. You just feel that they're broken right now. And it might be a situation, Travis, like last year where Tanner Scott was absolutely terrible and all he needed was one offseason to then come back to his regular form, where this year he has been a more confident player, a guy that you feel good when you throw him out there on the field. Right now, Edwin Díaz, there's been a lot of talk about the angle of the launch of his ball out of his hand. Travis, you as a former pitcher, is that something that you see where across the years it changes a little bit and it becomes less effective compared to maybe 2, 3, 4 years back? Do you feel that that's something that's really affecting him?
It could be. I'd be being dishonest if I said I had a really sharp take on that. I really don't. I would have to say, Harry, to me, this is far more about confidence than it is any sort of arm angle or delivery or anything else. So, let's kind of use Roki Sasaki as an example. Remember last year when he debuted and he really struggled? They sent him down to the minor leagues and then they brought him back and he pitched pretty well out of the bullpen. It's like, oh, he's bending his back leg more. It's like, yeah, okay. And then this year, all of a sudden, Roki's getting tagged again. They give him a bigger glove. He's like, oh, no. He was tipping his pitches. He's got a bigger glove now. It's all between the ears. If you think something good is happening because you're doing X, Y, and Z, then great, it's working. If you think you're not getting guys out because of X, Y, and Z, then it's not working for that. It's mental. It's between the ears. He's not delivering the pitches that he trusts. He's not able to do it consistently, and you're getting the results that you're getting. I think that what you talked about with the injury to Tanner Scott last year, and I think that's almost the direction that we're headed in. The Dodgers aren't going to embarrass anybody and just say Edwin Díaz didn't make the team because he stinks. Kyle Tucker's not on the roster because he stinks. They're going to give these guys the courtesy of finding an injury for them and then setting them down. But the postseason is not about feelings. The postseason is not about, well, we don't want to ruin them for next year. No, the postseason is about winning the World Series. The postseason is about going in there with your 26 best guys. Neither one of these are 2 of your 26 best guys. So, the injury that they're about to suffer it's going to show up sooner than later. They got about another month to fix this, because even if you got to the middle, what is it, August 18th, let's say you get to the middle of September 18th, and they're still there, even if they give you a little bit of a glimmer of hope, it's like, is it real? Can you really burn 2 roster spots with these guys knowing that they went 6 months without contributing? I don't think you can.
Yeah, it's something very difficult. And that's the thing. Can you fix the Edwin Díaz problem that you have right now? Can you get him back to his level right now? Because we are a month and a half away from the postseason kicking off. There's not unlimited time for the Dodgers. And I feel that part of the problem was him being out for 3 months with those loose bodies that he had earlier in the season, him needing surgery, him just not being with this team to be able to figure out stuff while the season was going on, and now having to do everything in a hurry. That's a huge situation. So in my opinion, Travis, with the pitching surplus that you have, with the starters that you're going to end up sending to the bullpen that have been giving you good results throughout the season, because Roki Sasaki is going to end up in the bullpen. Justin Robleski is going to end up in the bullpen. Eric Lauer can end up back in the bullpen for the Dodgers. Why need to have Edwin Díaz out there? Even though he has had results in the past, I feel more nervous when he's out there than confident when he's out there. So can he be fixed? Yes. Do I want him to go with the clock ticking to try to fix him? No. Let the next guy go out there and be the solution for the Dodgers in the back of the pen. And it's going to be the same situation as the last couple of years. You finish the game with the starter closing the game for you in the World Series, hopefully to get out 27 or further beyond that, like it was in Game 7 last year, to win a championship. So if you were making the decision today, would you keep Edwin Díaz as the Dodgers closer and let him work through this, or would you start looking for another option? Drop your answer in the comments or find us on social. I'm at Harry Ruiz on X, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram, or on TikTok at Harry Ruiz_. You can find Travis on X and IG at Travis Rodgers. Next on Locked On Dodgers, we're talking about Mark Walter. After selling the Lakers, he's reportedly looking to sell his stake in English soccer team Chelsea. Could the Dodgers eventually be next?
Make baseball season more this year. On Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade on every single game. For instance, the team that we spend all this time talking about, right? The Los Angeles Dodgers. They're trading at 59% to beat the Colorado Rockies, meaning a $100 trade is going to pay out about $138 if they win. Because on Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there is no house. And as the probabilities change, you can buy in and out of your position. So download the Kalshi app and use the code LOCKED ON to get $10 off when you trade just $10. KALSHI, Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risks and may not be suitable for all investors. Kalshi products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory.
Don't forget to check out Pete Fox on our YouTube channel with the Locked On Dodgers postcast with immediate reaction right after the final out of every Dodgers game. Another Walter sale? The Mark Walter story just got another chapter, and this time it involves Chelsea Football Club from the English Premier League, because reports surfaced Monday that Walter and fellow co-Dodgers owner Todd Boehly are considering selling their minority stakes in Chelsea, and that immediately brings us back to the question Dodgers fans have been asking since the Lakers sale. What does all of this mean for the Dodgers? Travis, first, let's separate what we know from what people are speculating right now. Right now, there is no indication that Walter is preparing to sell the Dodgers. The ownership, including Stan Kasten, previously said the Lakers situation was a Lakers story, not a Dodgers story, and there has been no announced change involving the Dodgers. So Chelsea is not automatically a Dodgers story, but you can understand why fans are paying attention, because he's been connected to major changes involving two different sports properties in a very short period of time while he's being investigated. And there's a lot of speculation of what's going on, what's not going on. And if he's starting to dump some of his portfolio, could the Dodgers be next or not?
Well, I think it's a very, very fair question. I think, look, had I said to you a week ago that Mark Walter was going to sell the Lakers, you'd have been, get out of here. No, of course not. He just bought them. Why would he do that? You know, if I told you that shortly after his Lakers sale that there was a potential sale of his EPL team, would you have believed me? I think I would have said, yeah, man, anything's on the table now. So why wouldn't the Dodgers be the same way? It doesn't mean that he's going to, but I think this quickness to dismiss the idea that this could somehow bleed its way into the Dodger universe is, that's like, why? I mean, it keeps going on. To your point, has Mark Walter ever struck anybody that's a Dodger fan, a Laker fan, or anything, as somebody that's in this for a short-term, quick little turn and burn, make a few bucks? No. Like, the reason that Dodger fans are as crazy about this guy as they are is because he showed up, he had a plan, he spends a lot of money, he puts all the money back on the field. He gives you an incredible experience inside the ballpark. He buys Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto and Blake Snell and Mookie Betts and all these guys. It's like, yeah, great. So everybody's incredibly enthusiastic for the long-term build out. And now all of a sudden he's selling off things like he's got, like the house is on fire. None of this stuff makes any sense. And like you said, combined with the investigation of his insurance companies, it's really hard not to wonder what else is going to come up. Now, hopefully, and maybe the answer is nothing, but the second the Lakers got sold, I think everything else is on the table. Obviously, the Dodgers are kind of the crown jewel and everything he had, but I would argue that the Lakers are pretty darn close. You know, if you're talking about the most valuable assets in professional sports, the Los Angeles Lakers are about as prestigious and valuable as it gets, and they're gone too. So I don't think anything's going to happen, but I'm not going to be the guy that says, oh, no, it's never going to come to that. I don't know. I didn't think the Lakers were going to get sold, and here we are.
Yeah, and we're talking about, Lakers, the most popular team in all of basketball in the entire world. You're talking about the Dodgers, one of the biggest brands in all of sports. You're talking about Chelsea, the English Premier League. That's the most financial healthy league in all of sports. And he had his hand in the cookie jar in all of these teams and all of these franchises. And all of a sudden it starts, we never expected in less than a year for him to dump the Lakers. Yes, $2 billion made out of that transaction, but money, $2 billion in his scope is nothing. It's a short return on investment when he could have kept this team longer and then made times 4, times 5, times 6 the amount of money like you've seen. For example, the Lakers bank with the over half a century that they've had the team since Dr. Buss purchase the team to now. That's the type of return on investment that you thought that he could get in the future. And the way that franchises are changing nowadays, it could have happened quicker than with the Buss family when they cashed in with the Walter purchase. Right now, Chelsea, him offloading that potentially, that just starts opening this question that I'm not ready for the Dodgers to change ownership, Travis. It's a problem that we've had stability now for over a decade with Guggenheim, with Mark Walter, with Stan Kasten, with everybody working behind the scenes and them being able to put in the money that they've invested. And I just hope that whenever it happens, if it's tomorrow, if it's in a year, if it's in 10 years, if it's in a quarter century, if it's in 50 years, whenever it happens that ownership changes with the Dodgers, we get someone that is as invested in this team as Guggenheim has been for over a decade, where they put back in the money to this team, both on the roster, in the facilities, with the scouting department, with the coaching staff. It's just a situation that, man, it makes me just get flashbacks to when the last sale for the Dodgers happened, that you had uncertainty, and the Dodgers and the word uncertainty haven't gone together for a long, long time. So just seeing Walter's money moves happen, it's just a coincidence or a reality of what's going on behind the scenes with his empire and the investigation.
Yeah, you never know who the next guy to come in is. We got Frank McCourt for a number of years. That was a catastrophe. And then, here comes Mark Walter and his group, and it's, launched the golden age of Dodger baseball that we've all enjoyed for the last decade plus. But nobody knows who the next guy is until the next guy's in and making the decision. So hopefully this lasts, like you said, a very long time. But it's a weird time right now in that universe where once the Lakers got sold, all bets were off.
No doubt about it. Yeah, nobody expected that to happen. And when it happened, it's like, oh boy, here we go. And of course, you got people from the inside telling you, no, everything's all right. But I look at it as Dave Roberts when an injury happens and it's like, no, we're good. It's coming back. This player's coming back in a couple of days and then out for 3 months. Hopefully, that's not the situation. So my question for you, our viewer, our listener, with the Lakers sale behind us and now this Chelsea news, are you concerned about Mark Walter's future with the Dodgers, or do you think Dodgers fans are reading too much into it? Let me know in the YouTube comments or reach out on social media. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On, which is celebrating its 10th anniversary, the #1 sports podcast network. We'll be back on Wednesday, hopefully to talk about an encore for the Dodgers bats in their second game of their series against the Rockies, now with Eric Lauer on the mound for the Dodgers. If you're watching on YouTube, stick around and check out the 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network channel. If you're listening on audio, make Locked On MLB your second listen of the day. Travis and I appreciate you riding with us. Until next time, keep it real, keep it Dodger Blue.